Welcome to today's workshop. Yeah. Hey Connor, thank you so much for liking the stream. Yubo, welcome. Dinaf, welcome. How are you guys? Okay, just waiting for you. Hey, King X, welcome. Okay, good. So we're going to be looking. So yes, if you saw the last one we did, we looked at a player who had not been very good at the end game. As a result, you would avoid the end game itself and would look for positions in which there was no end game scenario. This kind of resulted in him prematurely attacking because he wasn't confident in playing positions where there would be less pieces. Anyway, the same player, we took him through some training. Hey Terry, welcome. Took him through some training, wanted to see what it would take to get him to play better, and then actually specifically took him through the endgame training. And the games I'm going to show you now will be his games after the training, when he could play the endgame a bit better. And what I want you to look at is the impact it has on an individual when they know. Okay, the following is our current oh sorry, not that one. Let me give you one which gives you an idea. This one is the current standings for Greywood. Is already surging ahead for his second lesson. He hasn't actually claimed. Yubo is 200 points away from his lesson, and I think followed by another viewer. I don't know who another viewer is, but okay, cool. So anyway, jumping on to our lesson. Our player is playing white in this game, and he goes e4, e6, d4, d5, and he goes knight d2. So here's a sign of an evolving player. If you recall last time, he tried to go for something more complex. I think if it was something like the Alekhine Shattered Attack, just because he wanted a position which was messy. For those who don't recall what I'm talking about, last time he played knight c3, like early on, he would play this idea, and he would go for the complications which arise in this position. But here he goes knight d2. This is the Tarrasch opening, or Tarrasch system. It's very straightforward. It's about like exploiting the isolated pawn in the positions and so on. It's a much more technical position. So after knight f6, he goes e5, knight f d7, bishop d3, c5, c3, knight c6, and he goes knight gf3. And here is where the sharpness would come in. Knight e2 would be kind of the main idea, the main line. The reason, it's very funny, like in the French, you play this knight to e2, and then you play this knight on d2 to f3. Thank you, Lionel. How are you? And welcome. This tends to protect the d pawn. But okay, knight f3 is a much more sharper line, allowing queen b6 castle, sacrificing a pawn here. Knight f3, queen b6, queen a4, bishop e7, and a3. Okay, so for the pawn that white gave, you notice that his pieces are a bit more active than black's. Black has got a bit of a cramped position here. He castles, and now queen c2. Black goes g6. Now, this makes it very difficult to move his f-pawn in the future, because g6 will be very soft and very weak. So he basically condemns himself to a passive position. So if you are sacrificing a pawn in this position, this is the ideal scene that you're looking for. And this is sufficient compensation on its own. You just need to know how to play with it. He goes b4. The move b4 limits the knight. Remember, we said when you're playing against knights, you need to deny them advanced outpost. So this makes it very difficult to develop your pieces. So he has to reshuffle. After queen d8, the knight could come through b6. White goes bishop e3, b6. So now, if he plays knight b6, white could just simply take. And again, you're still stuck with passive pieces. So what black does is he plays b6, but I feel that he should have just played maybe knight b6. It was a much more active continuation than what he did. So rook f c1, bishop b7, and queen c7. And I can tell you that this guy would never have played such a move before. Only when he was confident that he could play and exploit weaknesses did he start actually playing like this. And this is one positive side of learning the endgame. So he goes queen c8, and here I want you to tell me, what would you do? The opponent has just played queen c8, then you played queen c7. So here I want you to look at the position and see if you could play this position and What would you do? Well done, Bet Whisper. Bishop b5. You well done. Bishop b5. So again, it's a lot of discipline. To take is a mistake. So you want to avoid you yourself doing the taking. He goes rook d8, and now what do you do? This is very important. These are critical moments. Usually the advantage is made or lost in a very simple position in chess. Well done. It looks innocent, but it requires precision. Queen takes c8. No. He played queen c8 because he knew that if you take, it will be good for him. Now, remember, he's a pawn up. If you take on c8, it's just going to occupy the open file. So you need to keep some things going for you. So queen c8 would not be the greatest idea. So what did you do? Bishop takes e7. d7. That would also be terrible. Again, yeah, well done, Bet Whisper. Knight to d4. Very good. The knight can move because of the pin on the bishop on e7. So this move puts more pressure on Black's position, and also at the same time allows him to now play f4 to support this pawn. So he goes a6. What do you do? Okay, so now bishop e2. Now, okay, so you need to keep your pressure as high as possible. So bishop e2 kind of reduces pressure. Bishop d3. Yeah, but you're still looking at biting granite here on g6. So you want a move which forces your opponent to make more concessions in the position. You have to understand, at the beginning level, people don't understand this idea of putting pressure, like because it's not attacking a piece, but the more you push and go for positions like this, the more you realize that this is actually very uncomfortable. The way Black's position is like, so he doesn't like it the way it is, and you have to maintain it for as long as possible, because it's got also some psychological pressure in the sense that your opponent is trying to wriggle out of it. Knight takes c6. No, it's not that. It's also one of the reasons why I'll get there eventually. Yeah, very good. Yeah, bishop a4. Good. Okay, so bishop a4 obviously keeps a lot of pressure on the position, and your opponent still has to do something, because it's quite annoying to have someone to have this. So it goes b5. So now what b5 does from a middle game perspective is it creates new weaknesses. Now you've got a5, b6, and c5 as weak squares which were not there before. So he plays bishop b3, queen takes c7, rook takes c7. Now white has lost a pawn, but still you can see that his position is much better because he's got other factors. This is what one of the things, it's very funny, but some people find it very difficult to appreciate and understand this. Some people find it very easy to actually just get, oh, of course, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. But the way I can make it make sense for you if it doesn't is, think of it like this. Most of the time when you learn to play chess, you're taught to play based on material. So if you win the queen, you win the game. That approach, and that's a very common approach, and people use that a lot. But there are three very important elements that you play on normally. Number one is material, of course. Yeah, you win material, it's easy to win. But there is also a question of development. So at some point, you're either ahead. So if you look at the games of Morph, you see that he won mostly because he was ahead in development than his opponents. And that element is enough to win. That's why he could sacrifice. So he understood that you could exchange one element for the other. So it's either material or it's development, which is in a way time. Or it could be that your position has got more attack than your opponent. This is a different concept. We call this in chess initiative. So now notice, you could be attacking and winning because of material. You could be attacking or winning because of time, which is development. You could be attacking or winning because of energy, which is attack. Or you could be attacking and winning because of space. And these elements sort of correlate to the physical universe. When you think about it, the physical universe is composed of matter, energy, space, and time. And these elements, if you learn, like when you were doing science, I think you were taught nothing is destroyed, nothing is made, or something like that. It's the same principle of conservation at play. So that's why sometimes if you win material, you notice that you are behind in development. It's because it's almost like a self-containing equation. And you need to learn to play with it. And that's where understanding comes in. So in this particular case, white is down in material, but you notice that he's got more space in exchange, he's got more development, and he's got the attack. Those are three elements in his favor, and material is just one. That's why in this position he's got an advantage. So here, rook b8, rook ac1. Now he takes control of this file. King f8, f4. Now this move is the move he wanted to play to make sure. So notice that he does it at the moment when the bishop gets protected. Now the knight really threatens to take the pawn, so he goes f4. Now because he plays g6, if he plays f6, e6 is very weak already. So there's elements of having moved the pawns which are working against him now, which did not before. So after f4, his opponent goes king e8. Okay. Now, a lot of people get lost at this point because everything that you can do that's useful, you've pretty much done. Now, what do you do? What do you do now? How do you improve your position? The guys on Facebook, you're welcome to contribute. The next move, really, it's not complicated, it's very simple, it's very logical. But a lot of people would miss it. What do you do? Dinaf says knight c6. Okay, knight c6 would affect exchanges. In fact, you'd be giving up a knight for a good bishop, something we really don't want. His bishop is terrible. It's like a pawn. So you don't want to exchange that knight for that bad bishop. Well, you don't want to really play a4 again because it frees black. He takes on b4 with his bishop, and he takes on a4. Oh, he can't take on a4, can he? He could take on a4 actually, and then play bishop takes b4. So you don't want that. Well done, Terry. King f2. Very good move. It's a good positional move, and it's got a drop of poison in it. Now g4, king f2. So when you have improved your pieces, then you can make the moves that you cannot pull back, right? Here, king f2 first, maybe crossing this line might be handy. Okay. Your opponent makes a mistake now. He goes rook d8. But the reason why he makes a mistake is you're actually putting a lot of pressure on his position. What do you do? Your next move pretty much decides the game. Very good, Yubo. Rook takes on b7. Take some time to appreciate and absorb this. Hey Ed, thank you so much for sharing the stream. So rook takes b7. Logical. And this way of learning tactics or practicing tactics is actually quite good because I'm not telling you that there is a fancy move ahead. This is just part of play. It's natural. It makes a lot of sense. It's a natural outcome of the previous moves that would have been made. Here, the move takes advantage of the fact that after rook takes c1, you take here with check on b7, on b8, and after knight b8, you've won material. And you know my approach is that I don't stop looking at a game just because it's now better for a certain side. We still need to convert it. So after king d7, it's quite lost, but I'll show you how it ends anyway. King e2, king here. Okay, exchanging is just making the job easier for white here to allow him to exchange this bishop. So our opponent is very cooperative. So after all this, you can just play this first of all to split these pawns, and a nice tactical finish at the end. If you take this pawn or queen first, if you don't, you take on f7. Game lost. So now you see, same player, a couple of endgame lessons later, is now able to play a game to the end, pretty much. Let's see his second game and how it came about. And the one we are going to see now, hey, thank you, Jason, for liking the stream. He actually was playing someone much higher than him, and the person is about 400 points higher than him. And you could see, like, now, okay, good. So now he's really starting to get what it's like to play with the viewpoint of the endgame. So he's playing white. F4. Not much interested in the opening theory. bishop d2, b3, f5, castles, rook e8, knight a4, knight f7. Okay. Now the problem in this position for black is these pawns in the center. They are very weak, and every moment black advances them, they become more and more vulnerable. Okay, so here black goes e5, so white takes, black takes, white takes, and here it goes bishop h3. So I just want to highlight that knight e5 here would be a mistake. It would be a blunder actually, mainly because who can show us why knight takes e5 would be a mistake here? Why is queen knight e5 a mistake? You have to see the whole line to appreciate. Yeah, you're missing a few details. Bishop g5 on its own doesn't work. So let's see those details. You need to be precise. Bishop g5 does feature, but it's not the essence of the reason why. Knight takes e5 is correct, and after d5, okay, not bishop g5, because the problem with there's a better move, much more forcing move. Yeah, the problem with bishop g5, I think, is because I think black can answer that with queen c7, covering f7, and there's nothing here. So you need to be more precise here. You need much more precision. What do you do? Very good. Queen f7, enough, Rhoda. Very good, Greyhound. King here, and then you play bishop g5. And now the back rank is very weak. That's why black played bishop h3, and after rook e8 played knight e5. Now the bishop on h3 is now opened the rook to defend the back rank. So now knight e5, rook e5, bishop f4, rook h5. Okay, queen e2, putting pressure on the rook, and now queen e8, bishop d6. So now you get this position where after bishop g4, queen c4 check, rook, white is a pawn up. So rook f2, bishop e6, queen takes on c5, another pawn, take, take on f8, first Zuchensu, queen f2, take, king f2, rook here. Okay. So after rook takes f8, you're playing white, you've got the better position, but the game is not done, so you still need to show how to convince or convert this. What do you do? What do you do? What's your move here? It's not complicated, it's very simple. What do you do? E6 would be a mistake. Because you can just take the pawn with check. It's a discovered check. The rook is on f8. It's white to play. You can't play king g8. Are you saying king g1? No, not king g1. King g1 is a backward move. You're in the end game. Your king needs to be more active, so you can't be going backwards. You can't play king g1. You want to be more active. Very good. Yeah, king e3. He goes bishop c2. What do you do? The questions are not fancy or complicated. I just want you to appreciate simple application of theory. Bishop c2. Not rook e2. Rook e2 is very passive. You must always think about that when you're playing rook endings. Don't put your rook in a passive position. Very good, rook c1. Goes bishop f5, you take on c6, he goes rook e8, and funny enough, when black played rook e8, he resigned also at the same time, because there's king d4, there's king f4. All this it's a play, but you're going to lose eventually. So this is one player. after looking at his endgame and the impact it had on his confidence and ability to work out positions. So this wraps up the games ahead for him. Our concept tomorrow, which we will focus on, is keeping company with the strong, and we'll explore some interesting concept. Thank you for joining today. Let's raid someone I want you to look at. His name is Christbook64. Okay. No, not yet. Okay, thank you so much for joining. I really enjoyed. I'll have some interesting stuff